Hey, what's going on, guys? Gamerdude back once again with another episode in our Just the Facts series. So, as always with these episodes and with all of my videos, I want to open this episode first of all by saying to my entire community and the entire world, I hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. We are all definitely in this together as a species, and seriously, adhere to the guidelines the governments are setting out, otherwise the virus just isn't going to be going away. Now, while I support the protests that are going on all around the world due to Mr. Floyd's death, I think it's moronic to be gathering in crowds the way that we are, given the fact that there's a global pandemic going on. You know, that's what social media is for. Just express your feelings on social media. That's what it's for these days. But you know, if we keep going the way that we're going, we're just going to end up with a second wave, then a third wave, and nobody wants that. We don't want that because, you know, passing on my condolences, as I always do in these videos, we're just going to end up passing on more and more condolences as time goes on. But still, yeah, I do pass on my condolences to anybody who may have lost a loved one due to the C virus. Anyway, moving on. So, this week we have some more news regarding the next-gen systems and what they will have to offer. Now, as you guys know, this is strictly a PlayStation channel, so I will be keeping this episode to the information that is relative to the PS5. So anyway, it would appear that when the next-gen systems do grace us with their presence at the end of this year, the PS5's baby brother shall not be forgotten, which is fantastic. See, as a gamer, I always wait a little while before moving on to the new system, but mostly because of price. Yes, I'm poor as pig crap. That would sound better if I said the naughty word, but you know, trying to limit the swearing on the channel, so pig crap it is. Anyway, what annoys me the most when a new system comes out is the fact that the older gen is simply phased out. You know, development teams just move on to the new system. They forget all about the older system, which I can understand. You know, they want to make sales and profits from the new system, but make a downgraded version of said game for the previous gen. That's what they did from the PS2 and PS3, but after the PS3 that stopped, and that's what really annoyed me about everything, because when I had the PS3 I really wanted Dead Rising 4, and it turned out it was a PS4 exclusive. Well, and Xbox, but you know what I mean. And it really annoyed me because when I finally got around to playing Dead Rising 4, it was like, well, this game could clearly have been on the PS3. The graphics aren't that brilliant, the gameplay's terrible. You know, it wasn't the best game. It was a ton of fun, but it wasn't the best game. But if you are a fan of the PS4 and aren't wanting to upgrade straight away, then have I got some news for you. Here is what's going to happen with the PS4 and PS5 upon its launch. So, as you can tell from the title, all new PS4 games must also be compatible with the PS5 from July. So updates to existing games, say Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, etc., etc., they are strongly recommended to add compatibility. So that does mean, and it does basically confirm, that the PlayStation 5 will indeed be backwards compatible. Sony has told the majority of PlayStation 4 game developers that any new title submitted for certification must also be compatible with the PlayStation 5 beginning the 13th of July. And as I said before, any existing games will just probably receive a patch. Even if it's one of the first games that ever came out for the PS4, it will probably receive a patch. So don't get excited if a game you haven't played in 5 years suddenly gets a patch. It's probably just a compatibility update. But yeah, this does mean all PS4 games received by Sony for testing after the middle of that month are technically forward compatible, playable on Sony's next-gen console, though it is up to each game's developer to ensure that this is the case. So there may be some that say, well, no, we're not doing that. Unfortunately, there may be some that have gone bust, example Telltale Games, that won't be able to do that. But that's fine because, Telltale Games, you can download them all on the PlayStation Store relatively cheap. And I'm assuming that they will look pretty much the same because I played the Telltale Walking Dead on the PS4 Pro. And aside from a few visual texture upgrades, it still looks relatively the same. So I can imagine it would still look the same if you downloaded it on the PS5. But developer documentation released on PlayStation's internal partner website and seen by Eurogamer details an option developers must check to state their game has been tested for compatibility with the PlayStation 5 hardware. This option was added at the end of April in a new version of Sony's PS4 software developer kit. So, it just goes to show that they're not forgetting about the PS4, but more detail on that in a bit. Sony has told all developers it will contact them individually with details on how to test the PS5 compatibility in order of their various project releases. So whether or not they send them a dev kit of the PS5 and just say, right, test it, or they just say, right, well, here's the specs, here's a PS4, test it, But further documentation of this sheds light on what compatibility actually means. A game shall be deemed compatible with the PlayStation 5 only if its submission code runs without issues on Sony's next-gen machine and provides the same features on the PS5 as it does on the PS4. So basically, it will be an identical game. But if the coding is wrong, if the coding is in any way different to what Sony expects of it, then you probably won't see it get a port over. It'll most likely do what Xbox did at the beginning and say, right, well, this isn't backwards compatible, and then a few months later, suddenly, this game is now backwards compatible, if you get what I'm saying. So, for example, a developer couldn't flag their game as PS5 compatible, but not provide support for a certain mode on next-gen hardware. These developer notes also detail Sony's rules for patches and existing games and remasters of previously released titles. So that does include remastered games that are going to get the patch updates, and they will come onto the PS5 as well. So you don't have to rebuy the game. Basically, you don't have to rebuy a remaster of a remaster of a remaster. Because if you think about it, games on the PS2 got remastered on the PS3. Then games originally from the PS2 remastered to the PS3 got remastered again for the PS4, and you don't want the same thing happening again for the PS5. It's just so much money wasted on a game that they can just add backwards compatibility to it. So if a game was originally submitted to Sony before the 13th of July this year, any new patches or remasters after that date would not require PS5 compatibility, but it would strongly be recommended. So basically, I think what they're saying there is any title that's already been in development, that's close to the end of development or close to release, doesn't really need said compatibility because, they've no time to implement that now as the game's ready for release. So it would stand to reason that any game like that will just receive a patch later down the line, probably closer to the day the PS5's due for release. So let's say, for example, if a game was originally submitted to Sony after the 13th of July, any future patch or remaster to that game would need to keep PS5 compatibility. Once a game is PS5 compatible, it must remain so. So it would stand to reason, like as you can see on the screen, Spider-Man's on. It would stand to reason that Sony's big title for PS4, Spider-Man, is going to get the patch update. It is worth emphasizing that all of this applies to games submitted to Sony after the 13th of July, which is not the same as anything released after that date. Submissions are generally made well in advance of release to ensure Sony's certification team can approve the game in time. So basically that means, think back to the South Park game, Stick of Truth. That was approved and then it was disapproved in Europe. That's why Europe got that stupid censored screen thing. I'm not going to bother putting it on screen because it really annoys me to see it. So let's say Sony's next big title, as opposed to The Last of Us, is Ghost of Tsushima. It is slated for release on the 17th of July, providing the world doesn't end up in another lockdown because we're all being so moronic. But it will have entered the certification prior to the 13th of July cutoff. It will not specifically need to be PlayStation 5 compatible because it already looks visually stunning, and this is a game I'm actually wanting to get. However, as one of PlayStation 4's remaining flagship titles, it is certain to be supported on the PS5 anyway. And indeed, Eurogamer has separately heard this will be the case alongside The Last of Us Part 2. Surprise, surprise, that's probably why it was postponed again. Been waiting for this game since 2017. I mean, seriously, how many times can they postpone one game? It's ridiculous. Anyway. But it's definitely worth noting that while approved software has the technical capability to work across generations, Sony is yet to go into detail on how it will handle this in reality. Mainly third-party publishers have already confirmed that they will support Microsoft's smart delivery method for cross-gen ownership on Xbox, same with Sony on PlayStation. It is designed to serve the best version of a game for the platform you are playing it on. Ubisoft will also use this to provide cross-gen ownership of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as will Cyberpunk 2077. EA Games, however, has decided some of its own games will have a limited time upgrade window, which really doesn't surprise me because EA Games is the biggest cash grab system in the gaming world. So it wouldn't surprise me if they want to do that remaster of a remaster of a remaster for every single console just so they can cash grab. I mean, everything about EA Games is just cash grabbing, DLCs and remasters. It's just somebody burned down EA Studios. Why couldn't EA Studios have gone bust instead of Telltale Games? It's just a waste. Anyway, as for any previously released games from Sony and Microsoft, they stated its intention a year ago to have Xbox One's entire non-Kinect back catalogue working at the Series X launch, as well as all games from its existing 360 and original Xbox backwards compatibility program. And as Microsoft revealed to Digital Foundry in March, it will provide this with improvements such as the addition of HDR, which will automatically be applied. PlayStation is, of course, also working on the same thing that Microsoft is working on. I know I said I'd only keep this to PlayStation, but that seemed like a relevant point from Microsoft as well. But they're also working to ensure that PS4 games do run smoothly on the PS5. No word yet as if it will be the PS1, PS2, PS3 and PS4. All we know is it's going to be backwards compatible with the PS4. So don't quote me on that. If you guys know any different, do let me know in the comments below. But a quote from one of Sony's devs says, we're expecting backward compatible titles will run at a boosted frequency on PS5 so that they can benefit from higher and more stable frame rates and potentially higher resolutions. We are currently evaluating games on a title-by-title basis to spot any issues that need adjustments from the original software developers. So that's a lot of gameplay to go through if you think about it, because there's been a lot of games released for the PS4, from indie titles to VR titles to big titles like Batman and Spider-Man and The Last of Us, etc., etc. But PlayStation wrote back in March, in a presentation, Mark Cerny provided a snapshot into the top 100 most played PS4 titles, demonstrating how well their backwards compatibility efforts were going. He said, we have already tested hundreds of titles and are preparing to test thousands more as we move towards launch. We will also be providing updates on backward compatibility, along with much more PlayStation 5 news in the months ahead, so please stay tuned. So, with that being said, you guys know that by now, that is, that there was supposed to be an unveiling of the PlayStation 4 on the 4th of June. But given everything that's going on with Mr. Floyd and the Black Lives Matter and the rioting and whatnot, Sony decided to tone it down. You know, they decided to postpone the event, probably as well because the coronavirus is still a big issue in the world at the moment. And, you know, they just don't want to cause any more infections and outbreaks and whatnot. But it does appear from everything that I've researched into this that the PS4 shall not be forgotten. The PS4 shall indeed remain active as the PS5 progresses through its life. I mean, yes, games for the PS3 have stopped being made. They've stopped making games for the PS3 quite a while ago, actually. But updates to the PS3 are still happening. You know, I turned on my PS3 the other day for the first time in a couple of months, and it actually got a system software update. And, you know, I played one of my older games, and it actually got an update. So, you know, it still goes to show that the PS3 hasn't been forgotten, even though we're moving into 2 generations after it. But that's my point exactly. What I was talking about earlier, what really annoys me is the fact that developers, when the next gen system comes out, they seem to forget that there's still a system out there that people would still prefer to play on as opposed to the new system. Yes, I mean, thousands of people are probably going to buy the new system at launch, but a lot of people, like myself, won't have the money for it, they won't have the patience for it, they won't think about getting it because there's just going to be no games for it, really. I mean, if they're going to be port over games, then what's the point in having it straight away? Because you can just play those games on the previous gen system. Anyway, you guys get what I'm saying about that. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, because that is it for this episode, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope I expanded your gaming knowledge and gave you an inside look into the next generation. So, yeah, shout out to all subscribers, old and new. Finally hit that goal of 1k, so thank you very much. Let's see if we can reach 1,500 by the end of the year. Might be asking too much, but let's see if we can reach 1.5 by the end of the year. If you are new to the channel and enjoyed this video or any of my other content, make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe. I always sub back to new subscribers. So that being said, this has been Just the Facts with yours truly, Happy Gaming, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys.